Chairman, thank you very much. Secretary James, thank you for your presence here. I told you the last time that you were here that when I hear your voice, I'm comforted. And it's still true today. And I hope that the answers to my questions, in addition to the way you speak, will be comforting as well. I am here on what I think is a significant and important issue for about 300 farmers in Kansas. The topic starts in Nebraska with the Harlan County Lake. It is a core lake. The Bureau of Reclamation then contracts with the Corps to provide water to irrigators. In this case, the Bureau of Reclamation is the administrator of the irrigation contracts with the Bostwick Irrigation District and has the responsibility for collecting the costs associated with that irrigation annually. The Corps allocates between certain accounts the expense of maintaining and improving that lake structure. And the irrigation district in Kansas, then, their members have to pay a portion of those costs. The key is how the Corps of Engineers determines whether the cost is in one pot or in another. And in this case, after the rebuilding of 18 gates at the lake, the determination was made, and incidentally, that it was announced that this is necessary for a design flaw in the gates. But the determination was made to allocate those costs in a way that then caused them to be necessarily to be paid for by the irrigators. We're certainly thankful that the dam safety project has been completed, but the way the costs are allocating is going to put my farmers in very dire circumstances. The design flaw of the floodgates at Harlan County Dam were replaced because of the design flaw, and the Corps of Engineers incorrectly categorized that as normal O&M project. The Corps stated, quote, "The gates were designed for no friction, but there was a lot of friction in the gate bearings, so the project was very necessary to prevent the failure of the gates." All 18 of those gates were repaired, and the Corps described this as a complex dam project. It sure sounds to me like this project is a safety of a dams project, and the 2015 GAO report agrees with that. But as a result of determining that this is normal O&M by the Corps, less than 300 farmers are on the hook for roughly $9.5 million bill, or about $220 per acre. We calculated that the average farm income in Kansas has been about $37,000 a year. The cost of this project for them is about $35,000 for every 168 acre quarter. Those numbers don't compute, and as you can imagine, my irrigators are fearful for their livelihoods. So, Mr. Secretary, I don't know the calculation that went through at the Corps of Engineers in determining whether this is, they considered an O&M project or a dam safety project, but the result is dramatic upon people who earn a living as a result of having access to the water from Harlan County Reservoir, and I need your help in fixing it. How can you help me?
I will advise the Chief of Engineers to look directly into it and get me an answer, at which time I'll relay to you. If the answer is not satisfactory, we'll go further from there. Let me address, if I can have a moment, water supply in reservoirs. They're completely different out west than they are in the Midwest and South. In the Midwest and South, most of those reservoirs we call flood control reservoirs because that's what they are. During heavy rain events, January through April, they hold water back that we don't have to introduce into the rivers and flood people. Then later, after the flooding, the rainfall stops, we draw them down. Well, right now in my part of the world, we draw them down to a recreation pool. And then later, like in September, October, November, we draw them down to a winter pool, which is you draw the water out of them so they can hold more water during the wet season. Now, okay, so there's recreation on them, and there's flood control on them, and now then across this nation, we're seeing the need for water supply out of these reservoirs, whether they be like your reservoir or like the South and Midwest reservoirs. My concern is, well, it's two or threefold. Number one, we've all got sediment in our reservoirs, so we're losing it there. We've got recreation in most of them, therefore we're losing flood control there. Not during the summer months, but all the recreators want us to extend the length of time in both directions that we hold that recreation pool. And then you come along with water supply, same difference. Now, as far as I'm concerned, and I've got to think more about this, but right now I'm not sure water supply should be a charge. That pool is going to be there. That reservoir is there. Now, I know in the 44 and the 52 acts of this Congress, that's when this basically started. But if you've got a reservoir for flood control or for droughts out west, holding water for that, it doesn't take any more maintenance for water supply than it does without water supply. I don't think we as the Corps maintain water supply intakes. So I want to look into this and see where it came from, see what the law says, and address it because it's beginning to affect this whole country, not just what you're talking about, sir. And I intend to be doing that over the next, whenever I can, and I'd be glad to get back with you on it. But as far as your particular problem, I'll talk to the chief and get you.
My understanding of what you're describing, which I appreciate your knowledge, but I also appreciate your understanding of the experience. In most of our lakes, the problem for irrigators is in most years there's not enough water for them to access to irrigate. They still have costs associated with their irrigation district they have to pay even when they're not receiving water. And in this case, the Corps made a decision that when they are receiving water, to some degree at least, but they're going to pay for the maintenance, wrong word, they're going to pay for the cost of replacing all those gates as if it was normal maintenance of that dam and gate structure, and that defies reality, and the consequences are dramatic. I appreciate the sympathy that you expressed and your understanding of in arid, dry country, or in our case, we're in a drought again, that water is very expensive when we get it. It's even more expensive when we can't get it, and we're still paying for things that are unassociated with our use of that water.
Is that a Corps reservoir?
It is a Corps reservoir, yes, sir.
What was it built for at the time?
Say it again. Flood control.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Just what you described.
That's what most of them are built for, is flood.
I had to ask because it is in Nebraska.
I understand, sir. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to put you on the spot, but it would have made a difference in what I'm going to do.
No, you've inspired me because you've said several times today I don't know the answer, so I was willing to admit that as well. Thank you.